Wanted to come in today and talk to you guys about something really awesome that I just heard about called Kitty Credit. That's just this amazing thing that's kind of happening, and I've actually got the CEO and founder here, Evan Leapart, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we begin, I want to remind everybody that on this platform, we believe in building wealth for our community. We believe in putting our community first. We believe in solving our own problems. We believe in building for our children. And if you agree with that philosophy, put a hashtag B and the number one in the chat, hashtag B1. That's our calling card. That's what we believe in. That's who we are. And hello, Raphael and Jay Will and Kiva and YK Mitchell. I see you in there, and Tanya, good to see you. Good to see you. All right, so let's jump in. Let's get it started. Hit the thumbs up button, everybody. All right, so Evan Leapart, founder of Kitty Credit. All right, so tell us, Evan, what exactly is Kitty Credit?
Yes, sir. First off, appreciate you having me on here, Dr. Watkins. It's always a pleasure. Truly love what you do. Kitty Credit, in short, is a chore tracking app that teaches kids about credit, where the premise of the app is the better a kid does their chores, the better their credit score.
Okay. That sounds pretty simple. It sounds like a nice one of those simple ideas that ends up being worth like billions of dollars later. You know,
that's the goal.
So Kitty. Okay, so in this app, kids are able to get a credit score by doing their chores.
Mm-hmm. So it's a simplified version of FICO. So think instead of 300 to 850, it's from 0 to 100. And the way your score is affected is based on how you do your chores. So think of a missed chore like a missed payment. The longer you've had a chore, like the longer you've had a credit card. And anytime a kid asks for something, hey, mom, can I get this? Hey, dad, can I get this? Hey, auntie, can I get this? You know, it's like an inquiry, right? So we're trying to teach them the mechanics of how credit is calculated based on, how well they do their assigned tasks, chores, activities, and just solid habit forming.
Interesting. Okay, so Black King mentions that you put me up on so much game. Thank you, brother. Well, you are welcome. I'm glad you're here. So let's put you out. We're gonna put you up on some more game here, by asking you guys a question. Bad, or let's use the word bad or good. Would you say that most of the friends and family that you know have good credit or bad credit? Yeah, let's go in the good and bad categories and include yourself if you want to. What would you say? Would you say that that most of your loved ones and friends have good credit or bad credit? I want to see if the stats have changed. I need to do a formal survey. Okay, so Belinda says bad, Ricky bad, Jeremy bad, Lindsay bad. Okay, so bad is 4-0 right now. It sounds like a Michael Jackson song. I'm bad. And I'm gonna tell you, Yolanda bad. Okay, all right, Stevie bad. Okay, so y'all got some bad. Y'all's relatives are struggling. Okay, all right, fine. Okay, no shame here. This is the no shame zone. So now I want you to let's do a confession. Let's come to the financial church. How many of you have had at some point bad credit? Give me a yes or no if you at some point have had bad credit. I'm gonna raise both hands. My credit's not as perfect as Alicia's. Alicia has always bragged about having my wife. I just married her, Dr. Alicia Watkins. I'm going to call her Dr. Watkins now because I'm excited. And
congratulations.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And so when we got together, there was a conversation about blending finances. And that was one thing she said. She said, my credit score is 850, and I expect it to always stay that way, right? Now, I had a 7-something. It wasn't as good as hers, but it was solid, right? It's good enough to get things done. And so maybe over time, you start off in a tough position, but you can improve over time. So why do you think it's important, Evan, for children to be educated early on the importance of credit scores? Why do you think that matters, just based on your own perception and research?
Yep. It's a good question. I mean, for us, we feel that habits are really what make up, a lot of our financial decisions, So if sometimes we might understand how finance works, but if we start it too late, it's not necessarily it. You're still going to have those bad habits, right? So if we're understanding that, look, I made sure that I made my bed on time. I made sure that I made my car payments on time. So it's really just trying to create this parallel universe between solid habits and then the mechanics of a credit score. And when you look at it, credit, if you end up making a mistake on your credit, it can take 7 to 10 years to really reverse that. So, why put somebody through the ringer where they have to mess it up and then understand how it works? For me, that was how it worked for me. I messed up my credit, and then it was essentially trial and error to understand what made up a good credit score. So we just felt that we should start the conversation earlier. And what we realized too is in the process of doing that, kids are learning about how credit is calculated, right? But more importantly, parents are also understanding too how credit works. 4 out of every 10 Americans don't understand how their score is calculated, and 2 out of every 3 adult Americans can't pass a basic financial literacy test. And when it comes to what we would consider credit challenged adult Americans, there's over 91 million of us. So it's definitely an issue, and we need to start it earlier versus later.
Well, that's a great point. And actually, before I move on, I want everybody to know I'm talking to Evan Leapart, who is the founder of Kitty Credit, CEO and founder. His website is kittycredit.com. This credit is spelled with a K. And also, if you guys could take 1 second, please, and hit the thumbs up button, hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. And so let me, kind of mention this too. When you talk about, you said something that was really interesting. You said most Americans can't pass the basic financial literacy test. And that's a big deal because you didn't say, most Black Americans, right? You said Americans, period. And that's an important point for people to know. I know that as Black people, when we start to become more conscious of our financial situation, sometimes we can slip into the habit of beating ourselves up, again, saying, oh, we're so bad at this. We're terrible at that. We're terrible at this. And the thing is, you don't want to go too far down that slope because you're part of a country where financial responsibility is just not, a deeply embedded value across the board. Americans are heavy consumers, and the corporations need this. They need us to become what I would call financial addicts, where we just have to spend, and we're not thinking about what's going on with our money and our credit and everything else. So I don't think people have to feel bad about that, right? I think it's this is kind of one of those things where parents, it sounds like what you're arguing is that parents have to take control of that. Like you have to fill in the void of what the public school isn't going to really teach your child. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit in terms of the role we can play as parents to really take over that process and not depend on somebody else to teach your child the things they need to know in order to be successful?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think COVID taught us a lot about that this year, right? Like, there was a statistic that showed about the global learning market and what's happened kind of before COVID and after. When it came to, I think before COVID, people were simply saying, look, my kid goes to school, they learn what they learn, they come home, and that's that. But now it's been more of a collaborative process. And now that parents are taking more ownership of the education track, it's saying like, how do we teach things that I feel they would need to learn about, like versus just what the school is talking about. So, what we've been trying to do now, so like our business, we work with a lot of nonprofits. We also work with credit unions, but essentially what we're trying to do is bring kind of a holistic unit between the after school programs, take like a YMCA, for example, and the parent at home. And what tends to happen is in these after school programs, the parents that are more engaged with the kids and they drop them off 5 days a week, they're checking on Google Classroom to see how they're doing with their work. They better perform across the board. So, but the parents need help. A lot of times there's parents that are in situations where they have to work multiple jobs. There's things that need to be done to help out. So what our app can do is the organization will be able to add a chore or task for the kid to be able to do that reinforces parent engagement. It could be something simple like tell your mom to check Google Classroom, tell your dad to sign field trip permission form, things like that move the needle on their education, and it kind of brings it together so they're not two siloed environments where like I'm at home, I'm at school. I think post-COVID, that type of reality is gone now.
And I agree with you 100%. It's just like even working, people always used to use this term work-life balance. And I think that's kind of this term that was created, through, I guess, maybe the Industrial Revolution or something, where we were trained to go and spend more time at our job than we spend, with our kids. And instead, I actually saw it more so as work-life blend. I work, I can be living and working at the same time, and you may not even know that I'm working, but I'm working, right? And I think that's important to know, because the family, I believe, should be a critical element in the whole development of of a child, the family should be incorporated into pretty much every aspect of your life on some level. Like I when I'm working, my family's in the room next door, and I like it that way because it's like now I'm multitasking. I'm able to still be the best father I can be because I can run right upstairs and discipline the kids. But I can also still go out here and hustle and accomplish all the things you could if you were, leaving your children to go to a corporate office all day, right? And so to that point, it sounds to me like you're saying the same thing with education. That education does start at home. Education starts with the parents, period. And the school can supplement that. And so with Kitty Credit, I guess I want to ask this. So in terms of your app, which everybody should download the app. They can get it in the App Store or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's on iOS and Android, so you can get it on both platforms.
Okay, iOS and Android. Let me ask you this. Actually, what is your background? Like, how did you get into this app development space? Are you a programmer, or are you a financial analyst, or are you an entrepreneur, or what drove you to even go in this direction anyway?
Yeah, my why. So like, I've always been an entrepreneur more than anything, right? Like I'm the non-technical founder, right? Like I've really been on this pathway for about 4 years, but I really started this because of entrepreneurship, right? Like I really believe that the best way that we can address the wealth gap in our country is through the lens of entrepreneurship. And in order to increase the number of entrepreneurs, especially in the Black community, we need higher credit scores. That way we can get access to a business loan or line of credit to be able to start a project that we want to start. I know there's alternative things that are coming out nowadays like crowdfunding, but still the credit score is really one of the key components to addressing the wealth gap, be it entrepreneurship or even home ownership, which is one of the most significant statistics around the wealth gap itself, right? So taking that conversation, it was like, what could we do to really change the conversation about credit so you understand it before you need access to it, and do it so it's not just one class in 7th or 8th grade, it's something that you instinctively understand over time. And that was where I created the correlation between a fake credit score and chores. But the idea was in my head for about a decade. I had no idea how to make an app, right? I was more so, my entrepreneurial endeavors were more so mom and pop type. I had a cleaning business, auto transport business. But it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I really started to take this project seriously. I was like, I've been mentoring kids for quite some time. My credit score was in a decent space to where I had a large enough credit limit to really kind of go for broke with it. And I did that, right? Like, so I started making the wireframes, built it out. And just along the way, we've really had, some strong validation around what we're doing. We have Equifax as a partner, large nonprofits as clients, people I've always looked up to, like Dr. Watkins, hearing about our project. So it's been a fun ride, but it really just started from the lens of entrepreneurship. Like, how can I feel that we can address the wealth gap most significantly through entrepreneurship, but to start that and do something at scale, it's got to start with credit scores. So let's teach about credit before you even need to have access to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, the reason that we're talking, is that when you do good work, like the people that you look up to eventually start looking up to you. They start looking and seeing what you're doing. And I saw you and I met at an Equifax event. It was like, I think for Black History Month. Yep. And I was really impressed with it, man. I thought that it was great. And I love the idea of just sprinkling a culture of economic success, at an early age, giving people options so that if things don't work out for you, you can't say it's not because, no one offered you a different route, like that it was never presented to you. Because a lot of us maybe grew up, think about it. I mean, I know when I grew up, I didn't have anything that I saw that was even giving me the option of being economically intelligent. I think if someone had offered a class on how to invest in the stock market when I was 12, I would have taken that class. I would have been happy to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
Right? I just didn't even know that stuff was out there at all. Right. And then by the time you learn that it's out there, you see it like, okay, well, that's for somebody else. That's for those people. That doesn't apply to me because, I'm a poor Black kid and that's all I can ever be. And then there's so much more. So let me ask this, just for those who are not 100% sure, what does a good credit score allow you to do as an adult? How does that make your life easier? I have thoughts, of course, and some of the audience does, but I'd like for you to kind of verbalize that so we can kind of consciously sort of explore that.
Yep. I think not even going to the lens of entrepreneurship, but simplifying it, right? Like if you want a car, right? Like, let's say we both want the same Lincoln Navigator, right? And then if I have poor credit, my interest rate could be 7 or 8% on that. And, if I have great credit, that interest rate could be 1 to 2%, right? That's a difference of hundreds of dollars a month on your monthly payment, right? So that's just a simple example. You're paying less if you have a better credit score. You want a home, right? If your credit score is below a certain threshold, you're not even going to get approved for a mortgage at all, right? Like when we look at the statistics around, and forgive me, I don't know off the top of my head, but when we look at like the wealth gap in our country between the average white household and the average black household, it's upwards of 100,000, I believe. And the most significant part of that is because of the lack of home ownership, right? So what is the biggest barrier to owning a home? It's your credit score. You have a great business idea, and there is no such thing as a friends and family round. I know I didn't have one. I did crowdfunding, but it wasn't necessarily, prior to that being available, there's people like, oh, I had nothing. I started with $1 million loan from family and I got it. Like that's not necessarily the case for a lot of people. But good credit, you have a shop that you want to open, it will provide you access to that. But on the flip side too, and this is why it's important to understand about how it works, but also understand about the risks of it, because you can easily go the other way and then over leverage and put yourself in debt, and that's a situation we don't want to have happen. So it's just, and that's where the habit part of it comes into. Like we could all understand how credit works, but if we still make poor decisions and have poor financial habits, then we'll just put ourselves in another cycle. So it's like let's try to change the habits early, and then also equip with the knowledge of what good habits and an understanding of credit, how those two things could function together.
Yeah, and everybody, by the way, I'm speaking with Evan Leapart, and he's the founder of kittycredit.com, which is a new app that teaches credit scores to children by basically using their chores as an opportunity to teach them how credit scores work. And if you would like to know how to learn more about the app and what they got going on, kittycredit.com is a website you can go to, or you can also download the app in the iOS store or the Android store. It's all over the place. So make sure you do that, and also hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. We're building Black-owned media here, and we could use your help. And so please take 1 second consciously right now. If you haven't done it, please hit that thumbs up button, and also please subscribe. We need you to do that because that's really, really important. So one thing that's interesting, Evan, is I'm not going to even ask a question. I'm going to frame it just as a statement. I'd like you to feel free to add in anything that comes to mind. That people use the term investment vehicle a lot. And I want everybody in here, give me a yes or no in the chat if you feel like you're somewhat familiar. If I say investment vehicle, do you kind of think you know what that means? Somebody give me a yes or no if you think, if you feel comfortable. Like when I say, investment vehicle, what does something come to mind, right? Let me know. Give me a yes or no. And as we do that, I'm gonna make a funny little comment. So there's this person named Real Talk in the chat, and I want to ask Evan a question as everyone answers that previous question. You said you have a wife, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, how old are you?
35.
35. Okay. And how long have you been married?
We are going on almost 3 months. Got married March.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Well, yeah. I see a person in the chat named Real Talk who says there's this term when I got married 2 weeks ago, and they've used this term called simp, because I express openly how much I love my wife, and I love the fact, she has children. I love the children. And I heard somebody use that term simp, and people are like, oh, Dr. Boyce, just ignore that. Because it's not even the majority of people. But I said, no, I want to take that head on because I kind of feel it's very sad that a lot of our men never learn like what manhood means. Manhood means accountability. It means responsibility. It means caring about other people. It means defending, protecting children. It means, loving the women in the community. And so anyway, I brought that up because I kind of really want people to also understand how your relationships and marriage and family plays a part into your wealth journey. So Evan mentioned earlier, and maybe you can talk about this if you want to, and then we'll go back to the previous question. Your wife, you said that you got this idea partly from your wife. Am I right? Is that accurate?
Well, no, that I had the concept before then, because we have known each other for quite some time, but Kitty Credit was in my head around like 2010. But definitely thinking about family, she was a part of it for sure. But no, it was me just at a sales job, had my headset on, and I was like, man, I need to find a way to teach about credit earlier.
Okay, for some reason I remember you, but you mentioned your wife earlier, right? I said
absolutely. I think what that was from the lens of is I don't think the company would be in the place it was without her, because it's really allowed me to just when your home is centered, you're just able to lock in. So that was 100%.
Yeah, and that's a point I wanted to make, for the young boys out here that never really learned like what manhood looks like. Like they think some guys unfortunately think masculinity is like, smoking a cigar and drinking liquor and, or having girlfriends and all that. And that's all fine and good. But no, it's about knowing where your resources lie, where your assets are in your life, and understanding all the different assets that you have that are around you. And one great asset, and you're not the first person who's come on this podcast who's built a really powerful company, powerful brand in partnership with a great spouse. There was another woman, Kim, I don't have her last name in front of me, but she came in and her and her husband, two very smart people. I think they're both about 31 years old. They created a hair care brand called Curl Mix. Some of y'all who are watching remember when we brought them in. And I kid you not, they were maybe hustling together, grinding together, making about $35,000 a year. And then they put their ideas kind of on top of each other and joined a group to kind of help them refine what they were doing. They literally cranked out $6.5 million in revenue last year at 31 years old.
Yeah, they're killing it.
Do y'all hear me? Right. And I asked Kim, I said, do you think you could have done this without your spouse? And she said, absolutely not. My husband's ideas were critical in all of this. His support was critical. All that, so a lot of the people that will look at a guy like you and say, oh, you're 35 and you're married and you're such a simp, what's wrong with you? Those are the guys that are still struggling, that aren't doing well. Maybe they're, stuck in child support court paying all these babies' mamas or whatever, right? Because they've been given the wrong model of manhood in terms of, So I had to really pivot on that point a little bit so that people will know that this is not just a matter of X's and O's of making money. That's important, but it's about culture. It's about family. It's about all the areas that are going to affect your ability to be the most productive human being you can be. Now, did you have something to say on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, as a founder, especially of a tech startup, like it's by far one of the most difficult things I've ever done, right? And I live in Miami. I've lived here for the past 17 years. Spent a year in LA, but been here for pretty much my whole adult life. And without a center, it's very easy to lose your way. And just being able to lock in and have a goal and just like be centered and have tunnel vision and somebody that supports the entire journey, because it's rough, like there's no on and off switch. It's not a 9 to 5. If it's a 9 to 5, it's from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. So just understanding that you need somebody in your corner for that. And it really helps. I mean, it's been night and day. The productivity of the company. And I think everybody on the team too would be able to attest to that as well. So
yeah. So let's go back to investment vehicle. Those of you who watch me, y'all know my ADHD will kick in every now and then. I'll start going in a different direction, but I always bring it back. I always do. So let's go back to investment vehicle. I ask you, give me a yes or no if you feel like you kind of know what I'm talking about when I say the term investment vehicle. Some of you said no. A lot of you said yes. But it seemed like the majority actually said no. Let me kind of help you understand what Evan's talking about in terms of credit scores and investment vehicles. Think of an investment vehicle like a regular vehicle, like a car, right? If you have one type of vehicle, like another vehicle is like a bike. So if I'm on a bike and you're in a car, who's going to be able to go further? Who's going to be able to go faster? My bike, let's say I'm the fastest cyclist on the planet. Let's say I'm faster than Lance Armstrong, but you have a car. Let's say you're a fat person with a car, and I'm a really fit person on a bike. who's going to travel the fastest and the furthest? Who? The person with the car or the person with the bike? It's going to be the person with the car, right? And then you got other vehicles, though. You've got, you've got something faster than a car. You got a helicopter. Helicopters are faster than cars. Then you got airplanes. Airplanes are faster than helicopters, and rockets are faster than airplanes. So the point is that you have faster and faster vehicles that are available to you, and credit is, to me, it's a faster investment vehicle where you can, sort of fast forward, almost like a financial time machine, and create financial realities really fast because you've got access to things like credit, just the basic access to capital, the ability to go to a bank, sign a piece of paper, and have them loan you a bunch of money, allows you to have things now that you don't have to wait for. Like that car that's $80,000, $40,000, whatever. You don't have to wait till you save $40,000. You can go ahead and borrow the money, right? Or that house that's $300,000. You can get that money right now, start living in the house, next month, as opposed to waiting 20 years or 30 years to save up that amount of money. But the thing about vehicles, faster and faster vehicles, is that you have to be a better driver, right? If you go from a bike to an airplane and you have not taken the time to learn how to be a careful pilot that's focused on safety, what's going to happen when you get in that airplane? You're going to die, right? It's going to kill you. It's not going to get you there faster. It's going to kill you, right? So having a good credit score and having access to capital is something that gives you a faster vehicle. You can do so many things. You have so much more financial freedom, so many more options than you would otherwise. But you got to be smart. You got to be responsible, because credit and debt is extremely powerful. How did I do, Evan? What do you think about that analogy?
So if I had a pen and paper, I would be right, because I was just about to tell you, I'm absolutely using that example. It's a great example.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
I'm the king of analogies. I didn't realize I had that talent until I started teaching. And when I was teaching at Syracuse University, it's like, okay, how do you get 19-year-olds to be interested in this boring stuff that we're teaching as finance professors? And I would think about all the different ways that it relates to things we understand in life, and that's what led to me writing my first book called Financial Lovemaking, where I was like, a lot of the economic concepts actually relate to love, relationships, and sex, and all this other stuff that's really interesting. And let's just, make the analogies fit. And then what happens is that when you relate it to something you understand, it sticks, right?
Yep.
And I think that for us as Black people, this stuff has to really stick. And I love what you're doing, man, with Kiddie Credit. I love the idea of getting our kids started off right. And I hope everybody watching, everybody who's watching in the chat, give me a yes in the chat if you plan to download this app for your kids. I'd like a verbal confirmation in the chat so that we can let this brother know that we support him and we want to see him win and we want to see him successful. So give me a yes in the chat if you plan to download the Kiddie Credit app. Kiddie, go credit spelled with a K. The website's right there on the screen. So let us know you want to download it. So Evan, any last words? You're not going to die or anything. We're just going to end the interview. But so any last words before we bounce out of here?
No, man, I just, keep up the good work what you're doing. Everybody out there, really start to look at how we can take ownership of our future, not just for ourselves, but also for the generation that comes after us. Let's each do our part to move the needle to make it a better place, especially, for the Black community. That's what we're doing this for. Everything that we do moves the needle, right? Like you teaching about finance, me trying to teach about credit. It's all pieces of the puzzle. So I appreciate everybody listening, and Kiddie Credit, you can reach me there. If you want to reach me personally, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, just Evan Leapart, first name, last name.
All right. KiddieCredit.com, Kiddie, credit spelled with a K. And also general financial literacy. We have our business school for children. It's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. The first month is free. So feel free to go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. We focus on stocks, entrepreneurship, and real estate. If you want your kids to learn in that space, feel free to take a look. It's a great program, and I think you guys will like it very, very much. So thank you very much, Evan Leapart from KiddieCredit.com. Please, everybody, give my brother a digital thank you and a digital round of applause for his extraordinary work, and also to his lovely wife and his family for backing him up on this. Being an entrepreneur is hard. A lot of you in here understand that. And so I hope you'll support this brother and what he's doing. So thanks a lot, Evan, man. It was great seeing you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Everybody have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Peace.